but probably a little bit too high and headed it downwards and just straight into the ground, really.
Just timed it, didn't they?
Yeah.
First corner of the game. March is going to take it. There's a clutch of blue and white shirts on the penalty spot. They're being marshalled by black ones as they run towards the near post. It's aimed in towards that area where it's flicked away by the Palace defence. It runs to the far touchline. Van Aanholt bumps Bong off the ball, and it's a throw-in to Crystal Palace in the right full-back position. Brighton 0, Crystal Palace 0 on TalkSport. That rivalry that we spoke of between these two teams may not be as vociferous tonight, but we had a playoff semi-final drama since that opening game here in 2011. The odd dressing room deposit which caused a few headlines, and that drab draw in November between these two, which was a bit of a damp squib. In fact, Brighton failed to score against Crystal Palace in 4 of their last 5 encounters. 10 minutes gone. And I suppose with Baldock and Hemed now on the pitch, they'll be expected to get a few more opportunities.
Yeah, you would think so. As I say, they're dominating the ball very much at the moment. They just need to create those goal-scoring opportunities. I mean, the last one there with Bong put a fantastic cross into the far post. Now potentially more players in the box.
And Glenn Murray said that his team were prepared to go to war with Crystal Palace tonight, but he also said it was a bit of a distraction as they try to place all their energy in staying in the league. Certainly, Brighton have started the better. Here on the left-hand side, the Crystal Palace penalty area. He plays it back into midfield. Saka got in front of Dow Stevens, now runs towards halfway. He's tripped and falls under pressure. And Kayal has given away a free kick on halfway to Crystal Palace. And Andre Mariner, who is in charge on the pitch, is very quick to award the free kick. He was in charge of the 0-0 here, actually, back in November as well. Here's Johan Kabay. Deep inside the Palace half of the field. He drips the ball forward elegantly, tries to find Saka, runs off the pitch and goes out and away for a goal kick away to our left-hand side. It wasn't a great ball by Kabay. The idea was right, but it ran off the turf very quickly. Macari Saka couldn't reach it, and it's gone behind. How difficult is it for players? How difficult is it to keep players happy when you're in a situation, as both Chris Hughton and Roy Hodgson are, in that they are trying to fight to stay in the Premier League, but they obviously got players that they rely on, players that they use week in, week out, and can't continually rotate.
Well, the beauty is competitions like this, Sam, to be honest with you. You know, I know we had to change our side yesterday against Shrewsbury, but that was more out of necessity with 12 players injured. It was only probably Pablo Zabaleta who got rested. But tonight will be fantastic for you know, dropping 1 or 2 players in that need 90 minutes worth of football.
Not fantastic if one of them gets injured, and Andros Townsend has gone with Schelotto, and then down in the left fullback position away to our right hand side of Crystal Palace, Jeff Schlupp's got an injury as well. He was involved in that initial collision with Izzy Brown, and looks as if he hasn't recovered either. And obviously then the added problems are that if you do pick up injuries in this game, you could be quite cross about it.
This is the biggest problem for managers, I think, going into these cup fixtures, about how many you rotate, how many you don't rotate. I think once you get past a round or 2 of this competition, all of a sudden you get a sniff of Wembley, and then you start fielding really strong sides. But in the main, the last thing you need is injuries.
Well, there is an injury here, and they're going to take no chances, Crystal Palace. They're going to make a change nice and early. Schluppy's coming off. And let's go down to the touchline and hear from TalkSport's Alex Crook.
Well, this is incredible, isn't it? 13 minutes played, and both teams now have been forced to make injury-enforced substitutions. Jeffrey Schlupp, who was down, as you say, is making his way. He's going straight down the tunnel, much like Brown before him. And Papa Soare, who's only played 2 League Cup games this season, is coming on to finish the rest of the game at left-back.
The Palace fans will be pleased to see him. As you said, he hasn't featured since October. He's back from a thigh injury and a broken leg, which is sustained in a car crash in August of 2016. But he's back and in the Palace lineup now after just 13 minutes, and that disrupts the rhythm of the game as well, doesn't it? Substitutions this early.
Yeah, it does, but that probably suits Palace, I think, in many ways, because Brighton have dominated the ball so far in these early encounters. So from Palace's point of view, being away from home as well, they'll be happy with the break in play.
Well, it's cold and windy down on the south coast, and so far nothing too much to warm us up in this game. We've played 13 minutes. You're listening to Talk Sport, and it's Brighton and Hove Albion 0, Crystal Palace 0. The ball is on the right side of the defence for Crystal Palace, and Kelly sent it forward. It was misjudged by Hunemeyer, and Sacco has picked it up and moved down the right. He's into the area now. Goes on the outside of the defender, sells him a dummy, gets to the byline, pulls it through the 6-yard box. He's blocked by the goalkeeper. Comes back out to Townsend. Townsend fainted to get the shot away. Now got it onto his right foot, takes a deflection, goes behind and out for a corner. Now, did that hit a hand? That is a question that Townsend is asking. And he's looking at the referee, who will obviously get checked by the VAR back in Stockley Park. And at present, I can see him with his hand raised in the air. He's given a corner, so I don't think he's going to give a penalty kick. It was very close to the defender, and it hit the top of his chest anyway.
Yeah, good defending. He spread his body there and took it just
เคยเป็นมือหนึ่งของนิวคาสเซิลนะครับสมัย
First corner of the game for Crystal Palace to be taken over on that far touchline by Johan Cabaye. Kelly up from the back. Delaney is in there too. Riedewald is among a clutch of players who they will aim at here. Delaney tries to get up, but it's away by Hemed, then further cleared by Baldock, and then received just in front of the centre circle by Pap Soiree. Very lean as he launches the ball back down the middle, but it's not a great delivery, and it's easily caught by the long-limbed and very wiry Tim Krul, wearing a bright orange goalkeeping jersey with black shorts. He looks like a Dutchman, doesn't he, in that kit? Very much traditional dress for a member of the Netherlands national football team. He hasn't been in the squad for a while because of the lack of football that he's had here. But he comfortably came and claimed that particular delivery. Brighton 0, Crystal Palace 0. 15.5 minutes gone on Talk Sport. Two teams pretty evenly matched in terms of head-to-head. 37 matches, won each, 25 draws. Palace have won 5 cup games, Brighton only 2 in their head-to-heads. Here's Hemed, edge of the area, combining with March. They're all a little bit finicky on the edge of the box and missed the opportunity to get a shot away. Sacco has gone down after a collision with Kayal. Now the referee believes that he dived there and there wasn't an infringement, and they continue. The ball picks up by Van Aanholt far side the Crystal Palace right. Quite interesting that Van Aanholt has spent a bit of time out on that right hand side, being so heavily left-footed in this first 45 minutes. And the ball sent back towards the edge of the penalty area where Damien Delaney is waiting for it. He in turn finds Riedewald. Only his 5th start of the season for the former Ajax man, 21 years of age. Faced up by March, tight to the touchline, sends it back to Delaney. And then once again, Palace have the time to bring the ball out from the back.
We spoke earlier about Sacco being important in this system for Palace, and he showed his credentials in the box just a minute ago, ghosting past who was it? I think Hunemeyer.
Have to test the goalkeeper.
Here is Izquierdo at the other end, trying to get the better of the Palace defence. And Fosu Mensah touches it behind and gives away a corner. And it wasn't great defending that, and Izquierdo just sort of going inside and out, and Fosu Mensah turns around and complains to his teammates that there was a lack of support there, and it is a corner for Crystal Palace, their second of the game. He's big and he's strong, Sacco. We'll get to him in just a second. Watch this corner first of all. And he's half got a powerful shot, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's a very good player. Played really well for Wolves in the Championship, and then got...
Here's the header from Hemed from the corner kick. It's an outswinger from March. He rose and glanced it towards the near post. It was easily caught by Hennessy. Good chance.
Yeah, fantastic header there, but straight down the goalie's throat. Fortunate for him.
Hemed's another one who did really well in the Championship for Brighton and Hove Albion, but hasn't had much of a chance in the Premier League since promotion. It's always difficult, isn't it, when you make that step up from the Championship to the Premier League. You have to refresh your squad, and sometimes you have to sort of be ruthless enough to discount the loyalty that you owe to those who got you there in the first place.
Yeah, it's a balancing act in many ways. You don't want to break the spirit that's got you promoted, because the feel-good factor in the dressing room will be brilliant with the promoted side, but the other side of that is you're going into a whole new ball game in a different league.
Delaney, deep inside his own territory, clips the ball out towards the near touchline, headed away by the retreating Baldock out of play and away for a MacArthur throw. It goes back to halfway and Delaney. Soiree then tucks it in field. Across goes Baldock but doesn't reach it. MacArthur gets there first, scurrying around on the edge of the centre circle. It's touched back towards Cabaye. Cabaye across the field towards Martin Kelly. Kelly up into the feet of Townsend. Townsend shuffles it back all the way to Yohan Cabaye. Crystal Palace in possession and in good form. Only one defeat in 11 games, and that was to Arsenal. They should have really beaten Manchester City, but missed the penalty through Milivojevic late on. That wasn't the penalty they missed when Benteke decided that he was going to take it, and then subsequently missed. Here is Tim Fosu-Mensah on loan from Manchester United. His ball into Townsend can't be controlled by Andros Townsend, and it runs out of play over on the far side. Townsend was in the England squad when Roy Hodgson was in charge of the England squad. Is there any chance that he could end up going to Russia, Townsend?
I think there's a chance of anyone. I've seen it so many times with myself. If you run into a decent bit of form and, you know, he can score goals, Townsend, we know that. If he runs into that, and Palace are a team that are on form at the moment, as you alluded to earlier.
69% of the possession has gone to Brighton Hove Albion in the game. 31 for Crystal Palace, 3 shots on goal, just a 1 on target so far, that coming from Hemed, whose glancing effort was saved by Wayne Hennessy. We played 19.5 minutes. You're listening to TalkSport live at the Amex Stadium under the floodlights here, with lots of empty seats despite the rivalry between the two, as Hemed comes forward, played in by March, runs to the edge of the area, goes down, wants a free kick, the referee says no. Cleared away by Crystal Palace. MacArthur takes over now, he clips it over the top, invites Townsend to chase. Goldson goes across, he gets there first and then nudges it back to his goalkeeper, who should really clear rather easily and under very little pressure.
In these early stages, I've been very impressed with Brighton. Obviously, my comparison being seeing live is that first game of the season, where I think they were a little bit in awe of Manchester City in the division. They look a real confident outfit.
Well, it was an absolute thrashing. That I mean, I can't even actually remember the score. I think it wasn't great. Was it 2 or 3, something like that? It was small anyway, comparison what it could have been. Yeah. Because you and I at half time were like, oh my word, how is this not 6-0?
Yeah, they really dominated a team that were sat off and defending probably the last 30 metres of their goal.
But they're coming forward now. Bong chasing down the left-hand side. He missed the game against Bournemouth. Doesn't get on the end of that. And it goes out of play. Yeah, it was 2-0. You're right. Your memory's better than mine.
I'm right. Every time I work for TalkSport, I never forget a day.
You enjoy it so much, that's why. Lives long in the memory.
It's etched on my mind.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, the opening 21 minutes of this one probably won't be. Here's Townsend over on the far side. He finds Sacco, charges forward. The tackle comes in. Hunamaya got the ball, did well, sent it forward, chested down by Hemed 10 yards inside Palace's half of the field, and it's kept hold of by Brighton Hove Albion, who try to come forward now. And Goldson slowed up by Kayal. He's had an interesting few months. He's really hurt himself with a broken leg in pre-season. He's had 8 major operations in his career. He says he was inspired to come back this time around by Zlatan Ibrahimovic and his miraculous recovery from the knee injury he sustained at the end of last season. And we're pleased to get some minutes under his belt tonight. Played a lot for Celtic. Goldson onto Scilotto. Back to Goldson again. He shuffles the ball across the back four to Hunamaya, the German, 31 years of age, his 4th appearance of the season. Ball goes out towards the near side, a space for March, waited for it, brought it down, edge of the area, cuts in onto his left foot, looking to try and get a shot away. Instead he goes wide to Bong. He's asked a lot of him to get on the end of this. His cross is deflected behind by the retreating Townsend into the substantial portion of Palace supporters that's away to our right-hand side, and it's out for a corner kick.
Yeah, it'll be important that Townsend tries to reverse Bong and get him going back and do some defending, really, to get up the pitch. If Townsend doesn't get forward a touch more, there's no support for Sacco at present.
Well, the corner's going to be taken by Solly March, who's taking an age to get over to that corner flag, which is in front of an entirely empty section of seats, which I think is a part segregation and part trying to hide the fact that there's nobody who's bought that many tickets, to be fair. Here's the corner over on the far side, which March will take. It's an outswinger. It's aimed towards Hunemeyer. It's headed into the air by Pap Soiree, and then picked up by Cabaye. And the counter-attack is on here for Crystal Palace. Cabaye onto Soiree. Not a great touch by him, but he has found Townsend. Townsend onto Soiree again. He's surrounded by 3 blue and white shirts, but he didn't really have the confidence to continue there. Slipped, tried to play it infield, wanted a free kick, was never going to get one.
No, went down a little bit too cheaply there. Not being fooled by that.
Brighton have it back again. Hasn't been the most swashbuckling FA Cup tie so far. The prize for which is a place in the 4th round, where they will play Middlesbrough away from home. It could be a reunification with Tony Pulis for Crystal Palace. Or it could be Brighton. Well, it certainly looks more likely to be Brighton the way things are going at the moment. Have started the brighter of the 2 teams against Middlesbrough in the next round of the competition. It is part of a January which is wall-to-wall football live on TalkSport. We think we've got the Carabao Cup semi-finals for you over the next 2 days. The Steel City Derby, Friday night, 7:45 from the EFL Championship. What a game that's going to be. Sags very much looking forward to that one. And of course, they've got a new manager, haven't they, at Sheffield Wednesday? A guy from Holland who hasn't managed for 18 months. His last job was for Stuttgart. He had 5 games in charge. Here is Baldock down the right-hand side, sending it on to Scilotto. Scilotto looking up and trying to find Stevens, who takes it beyond Cabaye, wanders into the penalty area, slams it in at the near post, past Wayne Hennessy, who really should have kept it out but couldn't. The ferocious nature of the shot, taking it past the Welsh goalkeeper and pummeling Brighton into the lead. It's Brighton 1, Crystal Palace 0. Hennessy will be disappointed.
Scilotto's done very, very well there, cutting in, coming across the pitch, just coming to the point of the box, then sliding it through to Stevens, who burst past the back line. I thought he might have taken too long to get his shot away, but when he did, the Palace back line couldn't get across to him.
Well, just in case you thought that VAR would take the joy out of celebrating the goal, it certainly hasn't. The Brighton fans are on their feet, and they are celebrating that. It's worked for them in 2 ways. One, their captain, Dale Stevens, has scored and put them in front. And also, they think their goalkeeper, the Crystal Palace goalkeeper, has done pretty badly. Should he have kept it out?
Well, I've got to give credit to Stevens. He's put a lot of weight and power on the ball. But when the goalie set himself, his hands were up and the ball's actually struck him on the elbow, so he's not had any reaction time. So whether it was the power, he'll be disappointed, no doubt about that. The angle was tight, but the pace is what beat him.
Brighton 1, Crystal Palace 0. And the first blood in the M23 derby goes to the home side here at the Amex Stadium. And Dale Stevens gets his first goal of the season. His last goal, December 2016 against Blackburn Rovers. He'll remember that one, that's for sure. Here is Townsend, infield to Van Aanholt as Crystal Palace try to come up with a response. I must admit, I thought Crystal Palace looked the stronger of the 2 teams when the team sheets were announced, but certainly Brighton have performed better in the game so far. Sacco trying to flick it on. It's picked up by MacArthur. He sends it down the right. Fosu Mensah with a cross. Not a good one. And it goes through the penalty area and dribbles out on this near side and away for a throw in the right full-back position. So 27 minutes gone, Brighton Hove Albion 1, Crystal Palace 0.
Yourself and Sags were talking earlier about the momentum of how well Palace have been doing lately, and this is the worry when you get involved in these cup competitions. If you suffer a defeat, you don't want it to spread and carry on and go on to the league form as well.
Is that another reason why you changed so many players?
Sometimes it's necessity. Certainly it was at West Ham this weekend. Necessity. We had so many injuries. We had to change personnel. It wasn't. I'm sure Dave would have preferred to put a stronger lineup out at Shrewsbury. Some managers will look at it and think, you know what, there's certain players that are not getting first team football that we need to tick that over with them.
But if it does go wrong, and as you say, you do lose a little bit, you don't want to lose a bit of momentum, you don't want it to spread through the camp that it is a disappointing defeat. If you haven't got your first team players, can you turn around and say, well, we didn't really have our first team out, lads, so, it doesn't really matter. The other one doesn't count. We're keeping an eye on the league here.
Well, it still goes down in the record books, no matter what you are, that you've been beaten and knocked out the FA Cup. And one of these two teams tonight or next Tuesday, Wednesday, if they have a replay, will have to suffer that.
Well, Albion certainly coming into the match on the back of a bit of a frustrating first Premier League outing of 2018 at home to Bournemouth. They took the lead twice in that game through knockout and Glenn Murray, but sloppy defending from set pieces cost them. Steve Cook and Callum Wilson snatching a point for the away team. They've taken the lead in this one. They will not want to surrender it. Chris Hughton is out on his technical area. What was the reaction on the benches to the goal? Here's TalkSport's Alex Crook.
Well, VAR certainly didn't take the joy out of Chris Hughton's celebration. He was unusually animated by his standards. He let out a big fist pump and then he turned to the fans just below us and with a beaming grin celebrated once again. Complete contrast. Roy Hodgson literally just turned his back on the play and went and sat and shrugged in his seat in the dugout.
Remember, both teams have made changes in the first 15 minutes of the game. Izzy Brown was replaced by Baldock after 6 minutes after picking up an injury in collision with Jeffrey Schlupp, who eventually limped off for Crystal Palace after 13 minutes, and he was replaced by Pap Suarez. And the goal did come from that right-hand side where Suarez had come in for Jeff Schlupp. And I wonder whether or not the fact that he was a little bit ring rusty may well have contributed to that. The ball is on halfway. Brighton have lost it though, given away. Reid Valdez picks it up and sent it forward into the path of Sacco. It's out to the left and Van Aanholt. Van Aanholt shuffles it infield. MacArthur is 6 yards outside the Brighton penalty area. Palace on the attack again. Townsend trying to turn. He helps it out towards the wide right position where it's picked up by Fosu Mensah. His initial first cross in the game wasn't great, but maybe he'll get another chance. He's helped that onto Van Aanholt and just given the responsibility elsewhere. Riedewald and then MacArthur, and then all the way back to Damien Delaney. The Brighton fans not afraid to boo the Crystal Palace players in possession. Free kick given for a foul on Suarez, who has played the ball in tight circumstances in this near touchline.
Yeah, he done well there. It was really tight. I don't really think he wanted the ball in that situation. He had nowhere to go, but done well getting his body in the way, buying the free kick.
Suarez again on halfway. Back to Delaney. Delaney, who's had his hair cut quite short, sends it forward into Sacco. Sacco chests it down. Looks for Riedewald, but he can't find a Palace shirt with the ball. It's cleared away by Brighton. Hemed looks for March. March gets it back again after a mistake by Cabaye. March wanders infield, hands it off to Stevens. Stevens, the captain, swirls the play out towards the left-hand side. Bong takes over now, charges forward. He's got Fosu Mensah for company. Goes on the outside, gives it to Izquierdo. Izquierdo coming infield, being chased all over the place here, but there's space in the left wing position for Bong. He was left. He produces a cross. He looks for Hemed. Hemed's header is over the top of the crossbar, but Fosu Mensah got caught there. He didn't know which one to go with, Izquierdo or with Gaetan Bong. He ended up leaving Bong, and Bong had acres of time to swipe the cross into the centre, and Hemed probably should have done better with the header.
Yeah, Bong's put 3 very, very good crosses in the box now. Probably wasn't enough weight on the ball there just to help the striker out, but certainly he's put it in the right area.
You mentioned about Townsend keeping Bong occupied by pushing him further up the pitch. There was a situation there where the two Brighton players were up against Fosu Mensah. He was isolated a little bit there, the right full-back.
Yeah, as I say, it's almost a trade-off, you know. Townsend's got to make sure he does enough going forward to drive Bong back, but at the moment, Brighton are organising plenty of possession, getting themselves up the pitch, and Bong can force himself forward and get crosses in.
Here is Andros Townsend, back on halfway. 32 gone. TalkSport live at the Amex Stadium. You'll be able to have your say, by the way, on all the night's action and activity on the sports bar from 10 o'clock tonight with Andy and Jason. Jason very excited about VAR. Here is Goldson forward towards Baldock. Baldock hands it off to March. March towards the right-hand side. Schelotto all the way back to Goldson again. They lead by a goal to nil, courtesy of Dal Stevens' first goal since December 2016. And it was one that I think Wayne Hennessy will look back on and think I should have kept out. Here is Goldson swirling the ball forward, high out towards the far touchline. Izquierdo keeps it in. Picked up by Bong. Bong with his hair tied back in a bun, comes forward, gives it to Kayal. He finds Hemed. Hemed back to Kayal once again. and then shuffled all the way back towards the halfway line. And again, they're quite comfortable in possession, Brighton. They're sort of in control of the match, you feel. Crystal Palace look a little bit urgent when in possession and haven't really tested Tim Krul too often in the game. And Chris Hughton so far has got his tactics right.
He certainly has. They've dominated the ball. That's the most important thing in this game. You know, they've dominated possession of the ball, made it really difficult for Palace to get a foothold in the game.
MacArthur has just brought down Scilotto, about 9 or so yards inside Palace territory. It's shuffled quickly back to Stevens and then nudged on to Kayal. Kayal in the centre circle runs forward, gives it to Hemmer, gets it back. Stevens, lovely ball out towards the right side of March, who runs into the penalty area. He's faced up Suarez, got it onto his left foot, trying to produce a low ball into
Diego Gonzalez. Now Messi Mikel across to Luis Hernandez, and it's Malaga this time changing the...
Here's Bong again.
He's got a lovely feel for the ball, Solly March, hasn't he? He's received the ball there, killed it instantly, and he just moves his body, rolls his body and puts defenders on the back foot.
Well, he scored against Bournemouth earlier in the season. He's been in and out of the team, but always looks comfortable in possession and nicely balanced. He's just headed the ball into Scilotto's pass. He goes back out towards the right-hand side, and March produces a cross left-footed deep towards the far post. This time Hennessy comes out in that bright red goalkeeping jersey and bright red gloves and pulls it from the air into his chest, and he bowls it out to the far side where Fosu Mensah is waiting. He tried to find Townsend. It was cut out by Hunemeyer. And the German gets Brighton back in possession again there. Not very long without it. Here is Hemed into Izquierdo, who tucks it away from Kelly, beats him, gets into the penalty area, pulls the ball through the box, comes back to Hemed. I think it may well have come off Hemed before going behind and away for a goal kick. But that was another good Brighton move and another chance for them to put pressure on Crystal Palace.
Yeah, once again it was down that left-hand side for Brighton where they foraged forward. Not Bong on that occasion though. Probably because Sacco playing up front with Townsend sort of almost come to join him in an inside right position, staying up the pitch a touch more.
Well, we've got a big weekend for you on Saturday and Sunday. Sunday exclusive just down the road at the Vitality Stadium. Bournemouth against Arsenal is a 1:30 kickoff. Arsene Wenger still banned, of course. He'll be sitting probably with Sags, I would have thought. And then on Saturday before that, Adrian Durham bringing you all the goals as they go in on Matchday Live. TalkSport 2 at midday. It's Cardiff versus bottom of the Championship, Sunderland. Alex Crook will be there for that one. He's commentating. And at 3 o'clock on TalkSport 2, following that game, huge Premier League match, Newcastle against Swansea. And then I'll be at Wembley at 5:30 on Saturday as we bring you Spurs versus Everton. Looking forward to that one, live on TalkSport. Here is, and I don't know who's with me on Saturday. Deck the producer's not sure either yet.
I'm afraid I'm at Huddersfield, my friend. Otherwise, I'd have loved to have been there.
Oh, well, I know. Well, you might have been there, but you probably would have been a
all right.
Hope your timekeeping's better at training. Here is Scilotto down the right-hand side. Tries to move towards the edge of the area. Across comes Van Aanholt, cuts it out, brings it forward, and then it's helpful by Riedewald up to the halfway line for Crystal Palace, but Brighton have it back again with Berim Kayal. 1-0 Brighton, Hove Albion lead. 37 minutes gone on TalkSport. VAR not been employed so far. Well, as we know, we haven't had a review or anything yet. I'm sure that they've been into... Andre Mariner, who is the on-field referee. His decisions are the ones that are paramount, and they supersede anything that happens elsewhere. He can ask for a review if he wants to see something again, or he wants a check from somebody else, but he doesn't get told he has to do anything from the guys in Stockley Park. Here's Hunemeyer.
Is that Bletchley Park or Stockley Park?
Stockley Park, not Bletchley Park. That's where they've got the Enigma machine.
Exactly.
The Stockley Park have reinvented that for the VAR system. Here's MacArthur picking the ball up after a poor clearance by Goldson into Sacco, then on to Sacco again, down by the left-hand side, pulls it through the 6-yard area, and Hunemeyer has to tuck it behind and away for a corner because Townsend was behind him and about to tuck in an open goal. And that all came from a bit of casual defensive behaviour from the Brighton defence, and Goldson in particular.
Well, it's been so comfortable for Brighton in possession. They've dominated the game, but on 2 occasions now, Sacco's been central to sort of counter-attack situations, and he's proved that he can go past people with and without the ball.
Here's the corner then, taken on the far side by Cabaye. It's in towards the near post. Riederwald is challenged for it in the area. It spirals out to the far touchline. Throw-in is given, and it goes out and away for a throw, which Johan Cabaye will take. Townsend moving in front of him, looking for possession in the right wing area. Goes to Sacco instead. He's being marshalled by Kayao and Bong. Kayao goes across to him, played off of Bong, and goes behind and away for another corner to Crystal Palace. It's their 4th corner of the game. They trail by a goal to nil. The goal scored by Dale Stevens after 26 minutes. It's his first goal in well over a year. Here is the corner over on the far side, the right, to be taken by Cabaye. And we bent out towards the penalty spot, and it's aimed in towards Delaney, who rose but didn't get enough purchase on the header. Van Aanholt picks it up, edge of the box, sends it back to Soiree. He should toss this back in. He doesn't. He devolves responsibility to Fosu Mensah, who does. He looks for MacArthur, who rises. It's over his head, doesn't reach it, goes behind and away for a goal kick away to our left. Do you think that there was just a little suggestion there? MacArthur initially sort of had a little sort of go and asked for a penalty when he went down. Do you think the fact that the VAR is in place will stop any sort of back-chatting or quell a bit of back-chatting from the players who are asking for decisions?
Well, I think from a player's point of view, you would go out in the game and know full well that any contentious issues will be solved fairly quickly, which, you know, is a good thing, I think, for players. You know, sometimes, especially if you're a defender like I was, you want to go in, you want to make tackles, and you back yourself to be clean in your tackles.
And that gives you confidence to do it because you know that it'll be sorted out if the referee makes a mistake.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than making a challenge. And
Scilotto into March. March touches it towards the near post as Brighton come on a counter-attack. It's played in by Scilotto in towards March. A little flick with the outside of the left boot, which almost tried to sneak under Wayne Hennessy. This time at his near post, he was a little bit more secure.
Yeah, to be a judge to have fouled someone when you know you haven't, you've won the ball cleanly, is very frustrating.
I did a game between France and Spain actually, and that was apparent in that match in which because they knew that the VAR was in place, when decisions did go against them and they knew they'd been checked, they stopped moaning.
Yeah.
They just got on with the game. That hasn't always been the case in Serie A and in the Bundesliga, where it has been in use for quite some time this season. The ball is out of play, down away to our left-hand side. The Brighton players now on the back foot, just defending the edge of the area. Crystal Palace just slightly getting more possession in the game in the Brighton half of the pitch. We have only got 5 minutes before half-time. It's 1-0 to Brighton. Here is Soiree, live on TalkSport at the Amex Stadium in the cold and the wind down by the south coast. Everyone's got their hats on today. Here is Van Aanholt. His ball is poor, cut out by Stevens. And then it's picked up by Hemed on this near side. March keeps it in just about. It misses Hemed. Cabaye went to go and tackle, didn't get there. Hemed played it against the Frenchman. And now it's worked out to the far side where Bong has got it. And they turn defence into attack now, Brighton. They pick up the ball with Kayao, who looks up, hesitates, just dawdles a little bit there. Just waited too long, I think. And then gave the ball back to Goldson. And they're comfortable in possession. There's an Under Armour hat, is that for Sags, with a little bobble on top, a grey bobble on top. I've got my next number on tonight.
Looks like Widow Twanky down there, doesn't he?
He's got some sort of like scarf wrapped around his head as well. I don't know what that's all about.
Scrooge had one of those, I do believe.
He did. Alex Crooks comes as Mickey Pearce from Only Fools and Horses. And you're not wearing a hat today.
No, I've got Triggs broom with me though, you know. My rug on top of my head acts as my hat, as you well know.
Ball sent forward down the right. Crystal Palace in possession, looking for Sacco, cut out by Kayao. Van Aanholt a little bit late on Scilotto. He's complaining and suggesting that he wasn't. The referee said, just get on with it. And the free kick has been given just 10 yards in front of the penalty area. Brighton have played 4 games in the space of 9 days before their week's rest coming into this game. I think a number of players showed a bit of fatigue signs late on in the game last Monday. 5 of their next 6 league matches between now and the end of February are against sides below them in the table. The likes of West Ham, West Brom away. I think that's sort of one of the reasons why he's rested so many.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about that. I think a lot of the teams are looking at the fixtures. We're one of them as well, and we're in a similar situation. Huddersfield, Brighton, Palace, we've got all of them coming up, and the head-to-heads that everyone has between each other are going to be so important.
Yeah, it could be a defining period in the Premier League season. Certainly might start to sort out that concertinaed area at the bottom of the table. Brighton were on the attack, but they've given the ball away to Van Aanholt. He's darted forward and got to the halfway line. He's played the ball to the right where Fosu Mensah has taken over. He's switched from right to left and running diagonally towards the edge of the Brighton penalty area now. Helped on by MacArthur and then on to Riedewald. He then finds Soirée and gets it back into the centre through Cabaye, and then Van Aanholt again, and then Cabaye forward looking for Fosu Mensah, who's trying to outpace Bong down the right-hand side. Good challenge that by Hunemeyer, who got in, nudged it away, and it's out and away for a corner for Crystal Palace right at the end of the first half. We've got a minute to go before half-time, 1-0 Brighton.
Hunemeyer's done quite well on a couple of occasions now, read danger and snuffed it out.
Good tackle that.
Yeah, muscled MacArthur out in the box as well.
Corner to be taken then by Cabaye. This could be the last chance of the first half for Crystal Palace, who trail by a goal to nil. Cabaye has the opportunity to swing this in towards the penalty spot. Kelly's wrestling inside the area with Hunemeyer. It's away at the near post by Kayal, and then the clearance by Izquierdo just goes straight up in the air. It's picked up by Andros Townsend. And then they're still bouncing around on the edge of the Brighton box before Bakary Sakho controls it, or sort of. He hit him and went back about 15 yards, but at least he chased it and recovered possession. And now it's with Soirée and then all the way back to Damien Delaney. So 20 seconds to go in normal time at the end of the first half. And it's Brighton and Hove Albion 1, Crystal Palace 0.
What they have done, Crystal Palace, over the last couple of months, even though in this game that they've sort of, Brighton have dominated most of the game, Palace have shown they've got a real resilience, you know, to fight back, and they've demonstrated that, and their results have proved it.
3 minutes of added time at the end of the first half, and that I think is much to do with the early substitutions of Izzy Brown and Jeff Schlupp. I don't like this fourth official board that they've got in the FA Cup, because it's only one-sided. So the old fourth official has to swivel and move and show everybody on all 4 sides of the ground. And I was at a game at the weekend at Norwich where he didn't do that. And only half the ground saw how many added minutes there were. And we've got 3, and we've played 30 seconds of the first one of them.
It's irritated you, that, Sam, hasn't it?
It has a bit. You know, I don't really understand why you can't have a double-sided board in the FA Cup when you've got on the Premier League. Here's Baldock down the right for Brighton, getting towards the corner flag. Under pressure from Kelly, doesn't receive it. In from the touchline he comes and muscles Kelly, produces a cross. It wasn't the greatest cross, it was low but not hard enough, and it was met by Delaney, and Delaney brings it out for Crystal Palace up to Riedewald. Riedewald turning, looking up, hoping that Sakho is about to chase his long ball. Tim Krul comes out and just marshals it behind. It's away for a goal kick, away to our left-hand side. Well, obviously Brighton and Chris Hughton are going to be happier with the way the first half has gone. Will Roy Hodgson be a little bit more pleased as the half has gone on?
Yeah, Palace have come into it a little bit more. I quite often look at the body language of the managers, and from Roy's point of view, when his players have turned out and not taken the opportunity to go forward, you could see the frustration as he's turned away from play, and I think that will be the one thing he'll mention to his players. Look, if we've got opportunities to hurt the opposition, let's go forward and hurt them. I mean, they've shown with Sakho's pace and his ability to go past people that he can cause problems, and Townsend's playing a little bit closer to him now.
That was great. The ball was kicked out of play on this near side by Palace, and a Brighton fan in the first row of the main stand here at the Amex, he was just back from the VAR monitor, rose up with a blue and white woolly hat on and headed the ball back onto the pitch. It was great. Here's Scalotto down the right side for Brighton. Ball cleared away, picked up Yeah, on the right side by Solly March, a back heel which was a little bit aimless and goes out and away for a goal kick away to our right. And really and truly that should be the end of the first 45 minutes. You're listening to TalkSport.
Yeah, if it winds up like this, fair result I think on the first half. Brighton have been the better side, both in possession and probably threats at goal. But Palace have demonstrated, if you come onto us and see the space at the back, Sacco and Townsend will cause us problems.
61% possession for Brighton. Hove Albion, 7 shots on goal, 4 on target. They are the dominant force in the game as we reach the half-time whistle. Here is Solly March robbing Van Aanholt of the ball. That's the last action of the first half, where Dale Stevens' goal separates the two teams. He scored after 26 minutes. There were 2 early substitutions which disrupted the flow of the game. The South Downs derby has failed to raise the pulses at the Amex so far, but it's the Brighton Hearts that like the beat. And Palace and Roy Hodgson, if it stays like this, will be feeling the heat. At the break, Brighton 1, Crystal Palace 0.
Just to let you know what's happening tomorrow, it's the Carabao Cup. It's the first legs of the semi-final over the next 2 days here live. We're live from the Etihad from 7 tomorrow night. Manchester City against Bristol City. On Wednesday at Stamford Bridge for Chelsea against Arsenal. And Friday night, it's Sheffield United against Sheffield Wednesday in the Steel Derby in the Championship. All on kick-off, all underway from 7 o'clock, the shows. And then round the grounds with Match Day Live, that Cardiff-Sunderland TalkSport 2 game, Newcastle against Swansea at 3 in the Premier League on TalkSport 2, and Sam Matterface at Spurs against Everton on Saturday evening. Then we're at Bournemouth for the game against Bournemouth and Arsenal on Sunday, exclusive from 1 o'clock. 1-0 here then to Crystal Palace. It's one thing, Stuart, really I've thought of. I haven't seen it quite so much tonight. Saw a lot more of it yesterday, actually, and not so much in the Merseyside derby when they're two sides. It must be quite difficult when you make so many changes and so few of those players play together on a regular basis, that the combinations, you're nearly as a management team thinking, I guess, you know, oh, what's he going to do in that situation playing alongside him? How is he going to make that run we expect him to? That there's a bit of a learning curve for everybody involved, isn't there?
Yeah, a little bit. You like a consistency, I think, when your team are playing and playing and getting results, you know. And both of these teams are doing okay. The results are not too bad. And when you do make those changes, I don't know who's playing together. Bear in mind, a lot these boys train together, so they're used to each other in that respect. But you do wonder what you're going to get from it, and more so maybe sometimes the attitude of the players. You know, is that mentality, I'm only playing tonight because, and if that is the case, it's going to suffer. But I've not seen that certainly from Brighton. I think Brighton have been very good tonight. I think what
was interesting yesterday was with Arsenal. They played some players that very young players who'd sort of come in, and I think they found that difficult against quite a, well, not a hardened Nottingham Forest side, but a side that knew what it was all about. And I think that they were perhaps shocked into that, and they lost their concentration at times.
Well, what Arsenal's done, he sort of put that side out for the Carabao Cup and the Europa League. And obviously the Premier League side is a slightly different side, but they've got this game against Chelsea coming up. The big derby, it's a semi-final, and I don't know how much of that was on their mind going up to Forest. I thought they'd win up at Forest, you know, change a manager at Forest and whatever, but I've got to say, in watching the highlights like I did, I thought Forest were outstanding.
They were magnificent. They really played as well as they have done all season. Look, it's been a good 4 days, I think, as far as the FA Cup's concerned, and really enjoyed it this time, as always. Some good games to come now in the 4th round, and sides like yourself have got another opportunity against lower opposition. Just finally on this one, though, in the second half here as well now. Again, looking at the benches, not too much at times to come on. Not that, you know, they've had to make the one change already. And I just wonder, really, you know, you don't want a second game if you're a Premier League side at the moment. I completely understand that. I know if you get to the quarters, it's only going to be over one leg. But you perhaps try and go all out to win this in the next 45, don't you?
Without a doubt, Sags. I think the one thing that all teams don't want, the Premier League teams especially, and more so, I don't think it overly worries the Manchester Cities of this world, because they've got the depth of squad and the quality that they've got. They can overrun anybody. But certainly, if you're in the bottom half of the Premier League, you're so worried about your position within the league and relegation, that the last thing you actually do want, because you're always thinking, if we have a replay, it's not just another game. it's a game before you might play one of your opponents that are around you in the league the following Saturday or Sunday or whatever. So, yeah, certainly replays are not something they'll look forward to. And I think if there is an option of getting after the game and winning it on the night, both teams will take that.
Well, I think we've certainly seen Brighton deserve their lead in the first half here. Palace have had their moments, though, and a couple of warnings as well. And the second 45 to come here. This is what happened in that first half.
Now there's space out.
Good morning and welcome to Mirror Football's daily transfer update. It's been a busy weekend. Philippe Coutinho's on his way to Barcelona, 142 million deal agreed. But where did Liverpool go now? We hear that
here and getting a little hot drink and a couple of biscuits. We all feel much better about life.
Thanks, boys.
I couldn't carry them. You've got time now to go and get yourself one. And the way things are going, you've got more time because we still haven't seen Brighton and Hove Albion yet. But we are going to have a change. It is the first change of the second half, but not the first the change of the game. Here's Alex Crook on the touchline.
Yeah, and it's Saleh Kaikai who has been warming up throughout the duration of the half-time break, who's come on. Andros Townsend is the man whose number is up. You wonder if perhaps he's picked up a knock in the first half, or is Roy Hodgson almost admitting this game is dead and we'll save him for the Premier League. Kaikai's an interesting one because he actually had a loan spell back in 2014 down at Crawley Town, not too far from here.
Yeah. And I think we asserted that in that first half, Townsend did pick up an injury, didn't we, Stuart?
Well, there was a couple of times sort of mid-half that I saw him semi-limping, but at the end of the half, I thought he was OK, so...
Well, he picked up an injury, if you remember, when Schlupp was substituted. Just before that, he picked up a bit of a knock, didn't he? And I think maybe you can't take any gambles. It's something that actually Roy Hodgson was saying. He said, look, I'm not going to gamble on the fitness of my players. We're not in a position where we can put all our eggs into this basket of trying to get to an FA Cup final or trying to get to win the FA Cup. We've got a lot of broken eggs, he said, so we have to balance these things across two competitions. And a few eggs have cracked here at the Amex Stadium in the first half. We've lost Brown, Schlupp and now Townsend. So 3 changes across both teams have been made in the opening 45 minutes, and the second half starts with Brighton in blue and white stripes and blue shorts, shooting from right to left, and all in black. Crystal Palace attacking the goal where their fans are behind, away to our right hand side. I'll go through the 2-11s as they stand in just a moment, but here is Bong for Brighton and Hove Albion, sending the ball into Kayal down the left, where it's picked up in the wing position by Baldock, who sent it across the face of goal. Well, Bong sent it across the face of goal, and Hemed turned, and I think Solly March was in there too, and they fired it over the top of the crossbar. But it's Bong again with another delivery into the box, which really should have been converted. Yeah, it was Solly March leaning backwards who sent the ball over the top of the crossbar. Yeah,
good opportunity there. Got himself in a decent position just beyond the penalty spot, and just got his technique wrong, basically, leaning backwards, as you said.
Well, the Seagulls have progressed to the 4th round of the FA Cup in 7 of the last 8 campaigns, falling at the 3rd round stage only in 2015-16 when they were beaten by Hull City. And Chris Hughton knows the value of the FA Cup. He was a winner as a player with Tottenham in 1981 and 82. Here come Palace down the right-hand side looking for an equaliser. It's picked up by MacArthur from Johan Kabai's ball. The Frenchman has returned it back to MacArthur in the right wing position. It's touched on and then given back to Kabai inside the area, slides it forward. Sacco was a little bit too deep, wasn't really making the run that Kabai was expected. It's cleared away by Brighton, and Hemed picks it up on this near side. Ball is out of play and away for a throw-in down by the touchline. The referee is taking charge of this game with a bit more confidence because of the fallback and the feedback he's getting from the VAR?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, you know, the officials are very professional these days, and they want to come away with personal pride that they've done a really good job. And whatever they do, if they need some assistance, and it's a whole team game, isn't it, for both teams, plus the assistants as well, to come away and know that they've done a thorough job and got all the decisions right.
We're on the halfway line, 3 minutes gone in the second half, and Crystal Palace have possession, looking to try and get back in the game. And they trail by a goal to nil. The goal scored by Dale Stephens in the 26th minute, and having seen it again, I still think that Wayne Hennessy will be incredibly disappointed when he looks at it back tonight. In fact, I don't think he'll wait that long before being disappointed. Here's Izquierdo on halfway. It goes down the left-hand side on the outside of MacArthur. A little trip from behind, free kick is given, and he was just threatening to escape away from MacArthur there, Izquierdo. Colombian darting forward at rapid pace. There was a collision on halfway involving Gaetan Bong on this near side and Kaikai, and the referee didn't see that to be a foul. Izquierdo's eventual felling by MacArthur certainly was, and the free kick has been given for Brighton, 15 yards inside Palace territory, and Solly marches over it. He clips it towards the far post. It's over the head of everyone. Goldson thought that maybe Stevens was behind him. He wasn't. He left it. It goes out of play and away for a goal kick away to our left-hand side, and that was a bit of a waste.
I've got to say, Sam, I'll be a little bit disappointed if we don't have a bit of VAR tonight, won't you? If we go through the whole evening without...
I must
want to
admit,
see the process.
At half-time, I did go into a little area and say to one of our colleagues, is it only me who wants to see some sort of mistake so we can get a little bit of VAR? And everyone was like, yeah, that'd be great. So I think we all want to see it. Yeah, I think because we want to see it in action.
Yeah,
I don't want
to see the process of it.
I don't want Andre Mariner to make a mistake, but what I do want to do is just sort of see how it would work. I'm sort of intrigued by it. Yeah. In a way. And to be honest with you, there ain't been much in the game that has intrigued me, so that would be good. And the other thing we were discussing at half-time is whether or not this was a great advert for scrapping FA Cup replays.
Yeah, well, I don't think there'd be too many managers, certainly in the top flight, that would turn around and be against that, if I'm being honest. But then again, Shrewsbury Town will be delighted that they get to play you twice. Yeah. Money-wise, won't they? Yeah. So, you know, it's difficult for those guys. Yeah. I've got to say, they're a good side, well organised. Yeah, they've done very well, haven't they? Here come Crystal Palace. A mistake by Hunemeyer almost allowed Van Aanholt in. He rushed his back pass to Krul, doesn't clear properly, comes out towards this near side where it's gathered by Bong. He clips it down the touchline, looking for the run of Hemed. He doesn't get on the end of it at all. Haven't seen much from Hemed at all tonight, really. And the only things we have seen is when he's sort of misfired a header or hasn't reached a chance. Doesn't look like he's ready to lead the line in the Premier League just yet. 30 years of age, the Israeli scored vital goals in the Championship last season, but only 2 goals this campaign. 6 minutes gone in the second half. TalkSport live at the Amex Stadium on a week of football which is absolutely bulging with action. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Carabao Cup semi-finals. Friday night, the Steel City Derby. Saturday, I mean, there's so many games on TalkSport and TalkSport 2, it's frightening. And then Sunday, we've got football for you at 1:30 on the Sunday exclusive as Arsenal and Arsene Wenger go to Bournemouth. Here is Hunemeyer, out to the left and Bong. Gets it back to his goalkeeper, Krul, clips it high into the air. And he's looking for the run of Baldock, but Kelly comes across, defends well, and clears away. He pokes it, Soiree, into midfield, and Cabaye takes over, and Palace try to come forward. A bit scrappy now as Schelotto picks it up and sends it back to his goalkeeper. Well, last year, Brighton were one of Lincoln's line of victims. That was in the 4th round. They lost 3-1 at Sinsel Bank. Last year on 3rd round weekend, Roy Hodgson was skiing in Switzerland. Nice. His wife was getting annoyed with the fact that he was in the house too much and decided it was quite about time now for him to go back to work. I'm not seeing Roy as a skier. No? No, I'm not. I'm afraid that Roy's got many talents. I don't debate that, but skiing, I'm not seeing as one of them. Oh, right. Fair play to him. He was on a skiing holiday this time last year. Yeah. At the moment, his team is sliding out the FA Cup unless they can slalom their way back into the match. The ball picked up on the left-hand side by Bong. Goes down the outside, and Sacco produces a cross which goes towards the near post. And it was well hit, but it was inaccurate. It was quite fiercely hit, but it was inaccurate, and it goes out and away for a goal kick away to our right-hand side. We've played 8 minutes of the second half. Are you a skier? I have been, since I retired and worked for the FA, I'd been on 2 or 3 occasions, and went in Canada as well about 3 years ago. I love skiing. Yeah. Loved it. Never been. Oh, it's sensational. I bet it's colder than this, which is a bit of a worry. I'll tell you what, it's probably not. Because you're on the move all the time, you seem to keep warm, even though the temperatures are colder. There you go. Now, for those of you who are thinking about going skiing, there's an advert. Not much happening in the game. Brighton 1, Crystal Palace 0. We've played 8 minutes of the second half. And Palace, for all their troubles at the beginning of the season, only a point and 2 places behind their hosts in the Premier League table. When they met in November, there was 8 points between them. It shows how quickly it's come very close at the bottom of that campaign. And you can sort of understand why both these two teams haven't gone at it hammer and tong tonight.
You know, you get 6.6 million quid a year if you're in the Championship, 93 million guaranteed if you finish bottom of the Premier League. So no wonder they want to stay there. Here's Sacco on the outside for Crystal Palace in the left wing position, tries to produce a cross, gets down to the byline, does manage to centre the ball. It takes a deflection off Schelotto and goes behind and away for a corner kick. It's their 5th of the game. You get the feeling he's going to be important, Sacco, if they're going to drag themselves back into the game, Crystal Palace. Here is the corner, so we're taken by Cabaye. Stephen Reid has come out to the edge of the technical area on the Palace staff and is directing traffic. The ball is headed away by Hemed, who was helping his defence out as that cross came in. Comes back to Fosu Mensah, who's got time to deliver a cross. He switches the play out towards Cabaye. He heads it on towards Martin Kelly. Hunamai gets there first. There's a half-hearted appeal for handball. Then Cabaye slides in with a tackle. It goes out for a goal kick away to our right.
Just going back to the skiing holiday there, Sam, if I may.
Oh, please do, go for it.
Yeah, last time I was skiing was in Canada at the Olympic Park there in Calgary, and we went down the bobsleigh run. Not on skis, obviously, but in the bobsleigh.
Did you?
If you get the opportunity, fantastic.
Calgary.
Sags has done it as well,
Sags has done it as well, down the bobsleigh run. Four-man bobsleigh run. The Calgary games, was that the games with the Jamaican bobsled team, was it? I can't remember.
No.
Is that the case? I can't remember. It might well have been. Anyway, I'm sure someone will tell us on Twitter, at Sam Matterface, if you want to get in touch. Here is Van Arnholt in the centre of midfield for Crystal Palace. His ball forward is aimless and picked up by Goldson. Out to Schelotto down the right-hand side. He's had a few more games in the team recently. It's his 10th appearance of the season tonight, the former Sporting Lisbon and Inter Milan player. It's out to Hemed. Good header this time. Back to Bong, but he's dispossessed by MacArthur. And again, loads of the action taking place in the centre of the field at present. Down on the left goes Van Arnholt. Decent crossing towards the near post. Sacco dipped his head towards the ball, didn't quite get anything on it, and it's cleared away by Brighton up towards the edge of the area. It's back with Goldson, who kicks it up towards halfway. Hemed can't control it, and it's back with Crystal Palace again. All of a sudden the Palace fans away to our right hand side, just starting to feel as if maybe their team had grown into this game and they've been better in the second half. Sacco miscontrols, chases it, gives the ball away again, and another turnover of possession.
Yeah, I don't think you can write Palace off. We mentioned it in the first half, and they've got some spirit in the camp now, and they've turned a few results around this season.
And Brighton have conceded from winning positions on a number of occasions as well, which could end up being crucial. Palace did make a run to the final 2 years ago under Alan Pardew, and that too was set amongst the background of a try to stay in the Premier League. Here is Kelly sending it forward towards Sacco. Sags has just done the Alan Pardew dad dancing. Izquierdo's chasing a long ball back towards the edge of the Crystal Palace penalty area, but it was always under control from Fosu Mensah, who found the goalkeeper Hennessy, who managed to clear. So no real pressure for Crystal Palace. 1-0 Brighton, Hove Albion lead. You're listening to Talk Sport. Ball is with Bong on this near touchline. There's a bit more intensity about Crystal Palace in this second half. Ball chips over the top though for Baldock, who's onside, moving down the left. He's got Hemed in the centre waiting for a cross. Still Baldock gets to the byline, produces the cross. It's blocked by the first man, Fosu Mensah. Maybe took too long to deliver that. Goes behind and away for a corner kick to Brighton and Hove Albion.
Yeah, I just got the impression there that one or two of the Palace defenders felt as though that was going to be offside, but it wasn't given. I think it was just onside.
Down the left he went dancing into the area. It took too long to get the cross in, really. There was a couple waiting in blue and white shirts inside the penalty area, but by the time the cross came in, Fosu Mensah was across the block, and it's out for a Brighton corner. To be taken on this near touchline by Solly March. He's got Baldock to Amax, not the tallest Baldock, but he's got a good spring. He runs towards the near post. It's aimed in towards the back post. It missed Hemed and missed Goldson and flew through the 18-yard box and was picked up eventually by Unamaya on the far side. The referee is now saying that there's a head injury, and that's why he stopped the play away to our left-hand side. Fosu Mensah is the man who is down, and the trainers and the physios have had to come on to deal with that.
I'm not sure how the Brighton players missed that. I thought there was a clear header there, but it seems to have sort of eluded both of them.
It went flying through the area. Maybe it was coming through at a pace from which it was difficult for them to judge or get on the end of, but certainly it was a good delivery, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was in a great area. Probably just too high, maybe.
Well, Goldson and Hemed both went for it.
Yeah, yeah. Too much height on the ball.
As the corner came in, and in the end a free kick is given, or a drop ball is given because of the stoppage due to the Fosu Mensah injury, who's now got to come off the pitch. Could be another sub in just a few moments. Brighton preparing a replacement. Fosu Mensah's coming off on this near side. And the Brighton fans not entirely happy with him and voicing their displeasure with his rather slow movement off the pitch on this near side. And way to our right, the Crystal Palace supporters just being separated by there's an extra presence of stewards just meandering into the end away to our right hand side. The November game was marred by a bit of disorder inside and outside the ground, with numerous flares being let off in the away end. Here comes Hemed again, flicked on by Baldock, doesn't get on the end of it, and it's collected by Hennessy and cleared away. Now, we want passion tonight, but we don't want any disorder, that's for sure. Hennessy clears. We're hitting the hour mark. It's TalkSport and it's the FA Cup third round. Here is MacArthur on the right-hand side. Challenge doesn't come in from Kayal, so he shuffles it back to Fosu Mensah, who ties himself in a bit of a knot and takes the ball out of play on this near side, and it's away for a throw. And then he throws the ball away, Fosu Mensah, and it goes out for a throw. And Alex Cook can tell us about another substitution for Brighton.
Yeah, David Pröper is the player coming on, the Dutch international signed from PSV Eindhoven in the summer, yet really to hit the heights that Chris Hughton would have been hoping for when he made that acquisition. And Dow Stevens, the man whose goal separates these sides, it's just been replayed on our TV monitors, is making way. The captain's armband is swapping hands as well. It's been handed to Hunemeyer at the back, so that's the change that's been made. Stevens will feel he's had a pretty satisfying evening rather.
Uwe Hunemeyer has strapped it to his left bicep, and in the centre of midfield, a bit more control maybe from Pröper, who I know he hasn't settled perfectly, but he's a player with talent that came in on the eve of the season. I think he joined the day before that Manchester City game and didn't have much of a pre-season with his teammates.
Yeah, I seem to remember he didn't have a great game that day.
No, he gave the ball away a lot, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And it's a difficult division to come into, you know, changing countries and the tempo of the game in this country. I think we expect a lot from our players when we sign them from abroad, I really do.
Maybe that's one of the reasons why we've got such a premium on the English players.
Yeah.
Here's Hemed down the left-hand side, looking to find Bong. Bong with a cross, gets it into the near post. Baldock was cutting across the defender, and Delaney put enough pressure on him to funnel the ball behind, and it's away for the fourth corner of the game to Brighton, the home team, who lead by a goal to nil. Yeah,
good defending there by Delaney, snuffed out the danger at the near post. Seems to have been around ages, Delaney, doesn't he? As a player.
36 years of age, the Irishman. Was expected actually to be out until February after undergoing surgery, but he's back in the team tonight. He was on the bench